let me ask you something, guys, because if you are a part of that group where you do have this long-term vision and you are utility focused driven, then do you actually believe in what you say you believe in? And you should be able to self-reflect over the previous, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe even the previous 90 days when you look at them, when you look at the charts, and kind of really self-analyze yourself and see if you really do stick to what it is that you believe in, right? Because I'm watching people that say they're here for the utility, but their emotions evidently are reacting to the short-term price action. They are emotionally reacting to the market sentiment, right? People say that they care about adoption. They say that they care about the infrastructure. They say that they understand this long-term vision of investing. Okay, then why is the energy different? Why is the energy different? Why are people much quieter than they were 4 months ago, 5 months ago? They're less confident, right? And suddenly, they have this internalized moment where they have to either decide, I'm going to stay or I'm going to go. What's going on, bro? But let me tell you something. Structurally, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Nothing has collapsed. Sure, the market has retraced, but there's no major rollback in the digital asset development, right? There's no mass abandonment of tokenization. There is no shutdown of innovation in this space. So let me ask you, what exactly changed? What has changed? Okay, the charts, sure. The price, the sentiment, but that's it. That's just about all that has changed from the last 6 months. Sure, the charts have slowed down, right? And when the charts actually do slow down, I'm watching everybody's certainty slow down along with it, right? Their convictions, the things that they say that they do believe in and why they're in this space. All of that starts to change as soon as the price action doesn't necessarily reflect. Who sent that? Ray Todd, thank you. Look, you can't sit there and tell me you have a long-term vision and that you are utility focused. Meanwhile, I can hear and see your emotions when the price doesn't necessarily validate your conviction. So what is going on, right? What is actually going on? If we can all hear and see, is it over? Is it over? What's going on? If we can all hear and see your emotions, well, that's not infrastructure conviction. It's not. That is a dependency on the short-term price action. And I'm not saying it to insult people. I'm really not. But I'm saying it because I think that most people still don't realize that this is what it is that they're doing, right? They think that they have this belief in an investment thesis, that regulations are coming, institutions are coming, and the price appreciation of utility assets will follow that, right? That's essentially the investment thesis. They believe that they have this investment thesis, infrastructure, long-term, utility-driven thesis. But what they really believe in is confirmation, and I can see it. I can see it. The market has to confirm their investment. And when the market agrees with them, they feel on top of the world. They feel so smart. They feel like they chose the right thing. They want to start posting. They want to get up on panels. They want to say, look at me. Look at me. But what happens when the market retraces? Right? They start to feel unsure. Is it over? What are we doing? So let's stop pretending that this is about technology for a second. Because if the price was running right now, I know that most people wouldn't be doubting anything right now. You're absolutely right. It is human nature. But this is the difference between an emotional investor and a logical investor. If you're going to invest, there's really no room for your emotions. I'm at least trying to implement a sense of stoicism, because this is very volatile. You're going to have up days, you're going to have down days. We got to have this community establishment of stoicism. And every time the market retraces 60%, I just can't do it anymore. Is it over? Is it over? We're in the bear market. I can't do it. I've seen it too many times. It's I don't know. Because if the opposite was happening right now, you guys would be excited, right? People would be posting, and they'd be calling it validation. It's validation. The project is successful. Look at all the utility, the price action. But are you here for the utility? Or are you here for the price movements that makes you feel like you did something? Because those are two very different things. And right now, the market is exposing what kind of investor you are and what it is that you actually care about. And to be honest, I see people panicking. Nobody right now is euphoric, right? Let's call it how it is. I honestly think that people are tired. I think people are tired of waiting. They're tired of sideways movement. People have been holding on for years and years. They're tired of checking the charts and seeing the same exact thing. They're tired of explaining their positions to their friends. Right? Their friends,
oh, what happened to XRP, bro? Oh, your Bitcoin. You should have put it in the savings account. What happened to Bitcoin?
People are tired of explaining their positions to their friends. They're tired of defending their thesis to people, right? And I think most importantly that people are actually tired of being early, right? I thought you said you wanted to be early. Didn't you say you wanted to be early? Didn't you say you wanted to be early to Google? I wish I was there for Amazon. I wish I was there for Apple. I wish I was there for NVIDIA. What happened to that idea of being early? I thought you wanted to be early. So what happened? What happened to that feeling? And let me tell you something, that feeling of being tired in the market, it's much more dangerous than fear. It is. It's much more dangerous than fear, because the fear is at least honest, right? It's at least loud with you. The fear actually can incite reaction to something, right? You're either going to sell or you're going to double down on something. But when exhaustion starts to set in, it kind of makes people drift. And I know that the other content creators see it as well, right? You see the numbers drop off when people are when the prices aren't good. People are just not interested in it. They start to drift away from it, and people will slowly start to disengage with their investments, which I don't know how you become an investor and disengage when your validation isn't there in the short-term price action, right? We always end up hearing people say, well, maybe I should rotate my money, right? Was I wrong? Maybe this isn't the one. Maybe I should take a break from it. But that's not analysis. That is quite literally emotional fatigue. And maybe that's where we are in the market. Maybe people are just fucking sick of it. The emotional fatigue happens when that cheap dopamine disappears. The cheap dopamine. When the market is volatile, people's brains become stimulated. Right? It's like a slot machine. People's brains become stimulated when the market's volatile. And when those charts are ripping, man, do people feel alive, right? But when it's sideways, there's no dopamine for you. There's no excitement. You don't have that validation in your investments. And without that stimulation of the brain, then I think a lot of times people's convictions actually start to feel like a lie because they start second guessing it. So let me ask you something. What is it that you're addicted to? What is it that you're addicted to? Are you addicted to your own investment thesis? Checking to see if you're right or wrong? That's what's going to dictate a successful investor. Or are you addicted to that stimulation, that slot machine, where the price has to validate your conviction? I don't know. Did you guys fall in love with the idea that you were early to something while the world was still sleeping on? Or did you fall in love with the idea that the validation came from the charts? I'm putting a mirror up to you guys. I'm not telling you what you're doing. You got to decide for yourself. And hopefully, wake up. Wake up. I think that most people end up inevitably liking the movements. They like the volatility. They feel like they were in something that was about to explode. But if you listen to the people who talk about real world utility, we know that the way that real infrastructure actually ends up growing, it builds very slow, right? These are things they're not exploding every week. They get integrated in quietly. Things start to scale behind the scenes, and sometimes that pace doesn't match your emotions to it. So sometimes people end up sitting in silence, and that silence can very easily force you to confront something very uncomfortable. Do I actually believe in this, or did I just enjoy the excitement that it gave me? Right? We're not in a collapse. We're not in a collapse. We're certainly not in the euphoria stage right now. But where we are is in a state of exposure. Okay? And most people don't break during a market crash. They end up breaking because of boredom. Time ends up breaking them. This is a waiting test for you long-term investors. Time is your biggest filter. Okay? This is an emotional drag. A crash is going to test your fear, but the waiting is going to test your beliefs. And when things crash, at least you feel a sense of urgency. You feel pressure. There's maybe a little of adrenaline. Some of you guys are probably making money when the market goes down, right? But when nothing is happening, or at least when you feel like nothing is happening, there's no adrenaline. There's no urgency. There's nothing but time. There is nothing but time for you guys. And that time should force you to sit with your thoughts. It does one of two things. Either that time will drift you away from the market and you end up watching football or some bullshit, the cooking channel, Cobb salads on demand, or it forces you to really sit with your thoughts and evaluate where you belong in this market as a long-term investor. Do I understand what it is that I bought? Do I understand the timeline that this could take? Do I understand what the infrastructure looks like? Or did I expect a straight up line and my life was going to change in 3 months? You have to decide what type of utility long-term investor you're going to be. Because this is where the gambler gets exposed. This is where that gambler gets exposed. Define long-term. Well, if you are a utility-driven investment thesis with a long-term investment thesis, then you are inevitably waiting. I believe that most of us could agree with the definition of a long-term utility investor. We probably all share the same investment. The regulations is going to unlock institutional adoption. That institutional adoption is going to favor certain projects over the others, and the projects that they do choose will see life-changing results. If you're looking for a timeline, it's probably I'm probably going to say at the very least a year. At the very least a year would probably be a long-term investor. That's what I would say. At the very least a year. I still think a year is, but at the very least a year. That's what I would consider a long-term investor. But this moment right now is where this is where people get exposed. And I don't think it's because people are losing money. I think it's because people are inevitably losing patience. They don't know what to do with themselves without the momentum, without the volatility, without the validation. A lot of people, they don't know how to sit still. And investing in the infrastructure, it requires stoicism. It does. It requires stoicism. You can't upgrade a global financial system overnight. You can't. Because the real transitions, they don't move at the same speed that your meme coins do. They don't. They don't. You can't migrate an entire financial system in 6 months. That's not how that works. So do you really understand what it is that you're investing in and the timeline that this could potentially take? They're not upgrading global standards overnight. They've been working on these things for well over 10 years. And if you are a long-term utility investor, then there are key things that we inevitably keep focusing on. Custody, compliance, liquidity, identity, reporting. And there's many more to it. But you have to understand that you can't integrate all of that at the blink of an eye. We are talking about institutional onboarding. And all of those systems, they inevitably end up moving in phases. And I mean, their responsibility a lot of the time is stability. So they have to make sure what they're doing is going to be correct, because if not, it would cause a financial crisis. But there is a moment where there is silence as a long-term investor. You're going to experience it. Maybe this is what you're experiencing right now. I know I experienced that silence when I had first started to get into the space. I got in it, I guess, 2020. Really, 2021 is kind of when I took it a little more serious. But it was years before I was able to look at the chart and go, wow. There was definitely a moment of silence for me, and there's probably going to be a moment for silence for you guys. And I wanted to kind of implement the emotional stability and having stoicism and patience, because there's going to be moments where if you are trying to update your thesis, your investment thesis, there's moments where they're testing things, right? There's moments where they have legal reviews. There's back-end developments. And none of that is showing up in the charts. It doesn't. But that doesn't mean that nothing is happening just because it's not showing up in the charts. Inevitably, I'm going to get a comment tonight. Well, why isn't the price moving? Can you survive waiting? Can you? If not, then you don't belong in here. You don't belong in here if you can't wait for a return on your investment, or if you're unsure of the time that it'll take. Me personally, I like to over exaggerate the time it'll take and under predict the price I think it could go to. I've always said 5 years is what I kind of think. 2030 is what I guess it's 4 years now. I've always kind of thought by 2030. So I think it could happen much sooner, but can you wait? If not, then go buy a bond and you'll know the term and you'll know the ROI that you'll get from it. At least that'll give you a little bit of ease of mind, right? I don't know. Are you guys checking your 401k, your IRA every single day? Are you? You're okay for waiting for that, but not for this? I don't understand. That waiting moment, it's going to expose who was positioned with understanding of what is to come. And inevitably it's going to separate the ones who were positioned with this expectation, right? You probably have two voices on your shoulders right now. You have one voice that's saying it should be higher now, and the other one is saying this is taking a little bit longer than I want it to. Two very different mindsets, and you probably have to juggle both of them. But right now the market is exposing which one you're listening to. Which one are you listening to? It should be higher right now. What is going on? Why isn't anything happening? Are we done? Versus the one that, you know what? If it takes longer, it takes longer. It'll happen when it happens. If you believe this is the future, how could you get shaken out of your bag? I don't understand. Look at your average investor, right? I honestly don't subscribe to the idea that most people fail because they were wrong on an investment. I think that people end up failing because they're uncomfortable. People get uncomfortable with the silence when the price action isn't validating their investment thesis. They get uncomfortable with uncertainty. Maybe people get uncomfortable without knowing the exact outcome at the exact time. Guys, Cosmic Crypto's in here. Give that boy a follow. What up, brother? So I think ultimately when people get uncomfortable, they look for something to blame, right? Manipulation. It's the whales. It's the regulators. It's the politicians. It's the Fed. It's those damn ETFs. right? But what these people never end up blaming is their own impatience. I think that impatience is actually harder to confront than the manipulation, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people don't want to put up a mirror to their face. At least the manipulation gives you an enemy. It gives you a scapegoat. But that impatience really puts up a mirror to your face. You can't claim that you believe in the long-term infrastructure and emotionally collapse during short-term stagnation. You can't. These structural shifts, they require structural timelines, right? I understand they're boring. They're taking longer than is expected. But these things are very procedural, right? A lot of times these financial upgrades, they involve lawyers and compliance teams and audits and risk departments. All of them. I don't know. Maybe some people just don't want to be investors. You know, they want the validation. Cha-ching, the slot machine hit. You know, I think people want to feel ahead of others. But what happens when that validation disappears? Well, there goes their confidence as a long-term investor. And I don't think that this is an investment thesis problem. I honestly think it's an ego problem for some people. Detaching the ego from the investing and waiting. Right? Sometimes I think people tie their identity to their portfolio. So, I don't know. Are you guys frustrated because you feel like nothing's happening? Or maybe nothing's happening fast enough for you guys? Are you guys frustrated? Inevitably, I think that sometimes this isn't investing to some people. You know, some people are in certain situations where this becomes a lifeline for them. It's their exit plan, right? This is their big breakthrough. Maybe it's the moment that they could say, I knew it before everyone else did. You know what? I was hoping it was... It's not vanilla, so it doesn't really taste very good. Honestly, it tastes a little bitter. I don't know. I think as a long-term investor, if you end up attaching that much meaning to something, right? Like this is your lifeline to escape your current life. People inevitably end up investing their identity along with it, right? Their ego comes in, their hope comes in with it, and when the price action actually slows down, a lot of people feel like their life or their future is like slipping from their fingers. So sometimes I feel like it's really not about investing to some people. It's their lifeline. For some people, I'm sure we've seen it. This is about pride to some people. And if your portfolio performance is going to determine your confidence in this market, then you're actually attaching your self-worth to the volatility in this market. The volatility is unsustainable, right? And I think that the real investors separate who they are from what assets they actually own, right? These investors, we're positioning, we're waiting, and we let the time work itself out. But when your confidence is tied to your holdings, then every delay or every swing in the wrong direction, it feels like a personal attack to some people. They have this attachment. And I don't think that that's healthy, to be honest with you guys. I don't. That attachment to your investment, that emotional attachment, I think it makes that's what makes people fold. So if this ends up taking 5 years, like I say it could, if it ends up taking 5 years, who are you without that validation? If the entire market goes into a bear market and it's sideways for years, Who would you be without that validation? Because that answer is going to determine whether or not you survive this current phase. Or if you're going to be the type of investor that drifts away because you lost hope. So you guys are standing at a decision point, right? I'm really kind of putting you in that position. Time is going to force your choice. What kind of investor you're going to be? You're either going to drift away or you're going to develop your discipline. You're going to develop your skill set.